This is all about vegetable gardens. It's getting to be a very popular thing to do in the United States. It was interesting, I was on YouTube the other day. In fact, at the FDR library, I found all the videos for victory gardens from World War II. And they're all there. It's really cool, and they're public domain. I'm thinking of chopping them up in pieces and throwing my face in there. But they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. I think that was probably the last time America was as interested in growing vegetables. Honestly, it was the hangover from World War II with all my relatives that got me into this. You know, I kind of spun off of it because they were all still growing food like crazy when I was a boy. But it's nothing like it. I'm going to start first with timing, okay? And when it comes to gardening in California, sometimes it kind of just it gets me a little bit right here when everybody says, "Oh, it's garden season." I mean, it's garden season. There is no end to the garden season in California, not in the Bay Area. It's year-round. It's a circular thing. It's the only variations are we have the cool season garden, and then we also have the warm season garden. And those crops do there's a transition period there between the cool and the warm. Some of the crops, I heard somebody mention broccoli. Broccoli is marvelous. God, broccoli is life, and George Bush Sr. hated it, so I love it. But the broccoli is an excellent crop that will actually extend across the barriers in time. I have plants sometimes that live for 18 months in the garden here. Tell me it's the beginning of the garden season. My broccoli plant doesn't know that, you know. So we have an October through March period, which we're really right in right now. And this is the time when all the cool weather vegetables grow. Stuff that we're growing right now in the gardens would be all the onion and garlic crops. Beautiful right now, perfect. Sweet onions, delicious garlic. Lettuce is killer right now. Lettuce is just, this is the time. It never gets any better than this. And it is so good. Homegrown lettuce is just amazing. I mean, occasionally I run short. I got to go to the store. I got to buy some lettuce. She puts it on the table and I go, "What's wrong with the lettuce?" So I bought it. Oh, it's not ours. Okay. And in fact, right now I'm using the regular square mud flats, the plastic flats you get a ground cover in, you know. And I line the bottom of them with newspaper to keep the soil in. I put an organic potting soil in there with a little bit of an organic fertilizer, and then I throw mesclun, the mixed greens, into these flats, and I'm raising them on the benches in my greenhouse when I'm not doing anything else during the winter. And it's so convenient because I could pick the flat up, I could sit down with a chair, take a pair of scissors, snip all the greens off, you know. There's not too many pests or birds inside my greenhouse, so it's pretty easy. I don't get dirt all over the leaves as much either that way, so it tends to stay really clean. And I can usually manage to get about 3 or 4 shearings of those fresh greens off the flats. So I mean, that's another thing in the wintertime. The raising of baby greens right now is outstanding. And if you don't have a greenhouse, I've done the same exact thing in the garden, out in the open. I still use the flats, okay, because I like them. They're convenient. Rather than getting on my hands and knees trying to cut little vegetables, I can pick them up, set them down where I can get to them, and then in fact I've even planted potatoes between and under the flats, so I use the back flats as a mulch over the top of the spuds, and the spuds pop up between. So you kind of get a double whammy recycling your water. But the cool season vegetable stuff, peas are out there right now in their glory. Anybody's raising sugar snaps? Anybody's got, I know Barbara's got them, yeah. Yeah, isn't it wonderful? It is time right now to be thinking of the warm season garden coming ahead, so with all the tomato plants, the pepper plants, the egg plants, and all that you're going to want to try to start if you have a cold frame greenhouse or something. Or you'll be getting ready to buy them soon. But right now, we're looking at the second wave of cool season vegetables, because the weather's going to stay cool from now through to early May. All right, and there's a transitional period in there where you can start to put in the tomatoes and the peppers and all that. But right now, more broccoli, more cabbage, more celery plants, more peas, more of the things that love the cool weather right now are just great to plant. And cabbage is probably the best season of the year to plant cabbages right now. You put the plants in now, and by May you usually have beautiful, perfect heads of cabbage. Starting in April and moving on through September to early October, you have this warm season thing, which is the garden season most of us identify with. That's where we're doing our corn, our snap beans, our melons, our squashes, you know, the summer squashes, the eggplants, the chilies. Oh, the chilies. The tomatoes, of course, that's number one in the American garden, is the tomato. I usually tell people if they want to know when to put in melons, for instance, you know, because everybody wants a watermelon or cantaloupe, is just go on outside 2 hours after dark, take off your shoes and socks, dig a hole in the soil, put your feet in the dirt, push the soil back over your feet, and try to stand there for an hour. And if you can stand there for an hour, it's time to put the melons in, okay? If you can't, keep planting broccoli for a while, okay? That's really, so it divides up like that, okay? You got 2 different parts of the year for 2 different complete sets of garden crops, and they overlap kind of somewhere in the middle, you know, and you end up having to play God because you got a whole lot of broccoli and stuff out there and peas for the winter. You got to say, yeah, this one's kind of wore out, that's kind of wore out, let's plow it a row so we can get in the tomatoes, you know. If you're like me, the garden never stops, and so I have to figure out how I'm going to get things worked into other things. Same thing going into fall. Am I giving up on my chilies, and am I putting in another row of broccoli, or what am I doing, you know? So, but the idea of letting, if you are going to let the garden go in the winter, which a lot of people do, I highly recommend you use a cover crop. Don't just let that garden go. Take it and plant fava beans all over. Even if you hate fava beans, just plant them. You'll find somebody who'll eat them anyway. But plant fava beans, a good one, fixes nitrogen. You can plant winter rye mixed with clover, works good. There's a whole bunch of things. Fava is probably the simplest one to come up with. They're good nitrogen fixers. You can go out there a couple times during the winter and mow them down with a sickle or a lawnmower or something and let them fall onto the ground. I don't usually even incorporate myself. I generally let things fall and I keep layering them, okay? I am not a digger. I don't dig. Okay. The gophers dig in my garden. Bill doesn't. Okay. Anyway, so as we start to move into this season, though, right now you should be planting your pepper seeds if you're going to do that. And so we have people here who are going to start seeds? A few. Okay. All right. So peppers take a long time to develop. They're a very long season crop. And so you're going to go ahead and try to get them started early. So you'll be doing pepper plants now. You'll be starting the eggplants now. The earliest tomato plants would be getting seeded right now for the earliest ones. There's plenty of time to sow them later yet, okay? But those would be things. Also, cold-tolerant crops that might be direct seeded will be coming up pretty soon, like, depending on whether we're going to have any water or no water. That's always the gamble. But from the end of March going into the middle of April and outward, you may start putting bean seeds, the snap beans, or if you're growing pinto beans or kidney beans, they go in the ground. By, say, April Fool's Day is usually a good day for that. You can remember it. I always consider myself the April gardening fool as I go out pushing these seeds in the ground. Corn, if you're not growing super sweets, if you're growing the ones that are sugar enhanced, wait, because they rot too easy. But if you're growing the classic old-time hybrids like Silver Queen or something, you put the seed directly in the ground in early April will be your earliest crop. But with most crops like corn, since, you know, it comes and it's done, and then you're out of corn, you can sow successive crops going all the way through to about the 25th of July in this climate. So the first sowing starts somewhere at the end of March or the beginning of April. The last sowing is the end of July. And so there isn't actually this day that we go out and put the garden in. Okay? There's a lot of time here because we have a really long season.